Hello and welcome.
And welcome to the show again. We took a little time off. I was up in, where was I? Thunder Bay, Ontario. I drove up there. 16-hour drive, but I broke it up over 2 days. So now we're back on the show.
Yeah.
Marcus Walker on the show. Thank you for being a guest on the show. You were on the original podcast, which was audio only, and that was like several years ago. So it's good to have you back. In the video, we can all see what you look like. Although most people already do know what you look like from being on stage, I'll assume.
I can only assume.
Okay. So speaking of driving, you must have been, you probably did the drive to Thunder Bay or Northwestern Ontario.
Many
beyond,
times.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that drive around Superior. It's
right, like from Sault Ste. Marie, to Wawa and to Thunder Bay. That's very sort of
Terrace Bay.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area. There's a lot of those national parks too. Mm-hmm. But on the drive up a couple weeks ago, it was very hazy. There was a lot of
because of the fires.
Yeah, the forest fires. You couldn't even look across the water. Like it was that smoky.
Wow.
And first thing in the morning when you wake up, you smell smoke.
Yeah.
Wow. So hopefully they get those under control. It seems like Toronto, Southern Ontario, we've been geting all the
little bit of
the rain.
Almost like LA sunsets almost.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So maybe bring us up to date on kind of what you're working on. I know it's been a few years since you've been on the show.
Indeed.
And for those that maybe don't follow you on Facebook or social media, maybe give us sort of a quick sort of update on what you've been doing.
Well, I've been mostly just working on my craft and trying to get better and better performance venues to have me come in and perform. And I played Roncy Rocks last year or the year before. Now that I think about it,
and I think last year everything was shut down. For COVID, there was no live shows.
No, no. This would have been June of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, just been surviving as a musician in the hurly-burly. The hurly-burly. What's the word for it? I'll just
we could dub that in.
Yeah,
later.
You could dub that in later. The metropolis of Toronto.
Right.
And since COVID pretty much shut everything down, I just started writing new songs.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people have because the creativity, the process never stops.
Right.
As an artist.
Right, and especially if you're locked down, you can't go out and play shows or tour. Well, you got to keep the chops up.
Exactly.
And creativity, I don't know how it is for most other musicians. I can't speak for them, but I find it never sort of shuts off.
No.
And it's like a tap that keeps flowing, and you have to kind of let it out. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen.
Well, it's like the Chinese water torture, right?
Yes, that's right. So you kind of have to constantly be doing something, I find.
Yeah.
And with your, I guess your COVID time in quarantine, working on new stuff, did you have a chance to experiment with new sort of sounds or writing tools, or?
It's mostly, my process is one of these things that, if it comes to me, it comes to me, and, the rest of us just get to work.
Right.
But I try not to force it. I try to keep it, inspirational.
Right.
And that is more than anything in terms of what I try to put across with my music is a sense of inspiration to elevate, to exalt.
Right. And you're writing these on your own, or do you have a co-writer, or do you work with a band, or what's kind of your process?
They're pretty much all me, and I've done some collaborations, but it never really quite turned out the way it should be, because other people are on different levels of songwriting,
right?
And sometimes when you try and bridge the gap, or rather you force the gap to happen, it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah, I find just anecdotally over the years, it's been about 50-50. I think it depends on sometimes what the goals are.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the song or the project. As well as people have different styles of working too, right? So
definitely.
So for yourself, it's just basically sitting with a guitar and writing? Or,
pretty much. pretty much. Sometimes I'll have an idea and write that out, and then I'll leave it for like 6 months, and then I'll come back to it and then see if something else, that I've already written matches with it. Maybe change the key.
Right.
Because I used to be a poet before I was a musician, like way back when.
Right. Okay.
And so I've got like a big stack of poetry books that I occasionally mine for inspiration.
Okay.
And utilize.
And how long ago was that when you did the?
Like in my teens.
Okay.
And then they just became song lyrics.
Okay, right. I think a lot of people kind of start that way. A lot of musicians I've talked to did poetry, in high school as a way to kind of, cope with a high school experience. That's a whole weird experience. So they either do something athletic or they do something artistic, I find.
Yep.
Right? So myself, I was never really an athlete, so I obviously went to the more creative music routes. And yourself, this was in high school you were studying poetry? Okay, right.
Yeah, I guess it must have been about 13 or 14.
13, okay, that's right around that age. That awkward age.
That awkward age.
That's right, okay. Did you ever publish any of these? Or
a couple of them got published, like in, I don't know if you remember, but Kensington Market Drum.
Yes, right. Okay, great.
I published in that.
Okay, great.
And I won some award in the school board of Ontario for one of my poems.
Oh, great!
Way back when, but
excellent. Great.
It was nice.
Great, but that sort of life is now behind you. Your focus is now music or poetry through musical instrumentation, I guess you could call it.
I'd like to consider myself more of a craftsman of vibes.
Right. I remember reading that in your bio. It's about good vibes that you're trying. Because your music has kind of the 70s fusion and 80s pop.
A little bit of everything, apparently.
Bit of everything. Okay, right.
That's what I've been compared to, like, what's his name? Richie Havens.
Okay, right.
John Mayer.
Right.
Ben Harper. Taj Mahal,
right,
and
are those
others.
Some of your influences as well, or are they not? It's just coincidental.
Just coincidental, mostly.
Okay.
I mean, I love Taj Mahal. I've seen him twice in concert, and he's awesome live.
Oh, great.
But as for Ben Harper, I like Ben Harper.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that I'm a hardcore fan of him.
Right.
Same thing with Richie Havens and John Mayer. John Mayer's spawned a whole generation of musician, singer, songwriter, guitarist guys who were, and girls.
Sure.
And so his influence is definitely undeniable, but I wouldn't say that I was a super huge fan.
Right.
What I hear, I like.
Right.
But you remember those days when you would go out and buy an album because you heard that one song?
Yes.
And you wanted to hear what else that they had?
That's right. And sometimes you were disappointed with the rest of the album.
Yeah.
Let's continue, sorry.
Yeah. Like Flick of the Switch by AC/DC. It's okay, but whatever. Although the first couple of albums I ever bought, vinyl albums, that is, with my own money, was Zenyatta Mondata by the Police.
Oh, wow, okay.
And
how old were you then?
It was like when it came out.
When it came out, okay.
Yeah, so I must have been like 9 or 10.
Okay, wow.
Something like that.
Great, okay.
Also, I'd had, at the same purchase situation, I'd also got this K-Tel compilation called Hit Express.
K-Tel, okay.
Yeah. And it had like Who Can It Be Now?
Right. I remember those compilations. They were great.
Yeah.
And then I remember, I want to say in the 90s, mid-90s, the compilation kind of got revived when Much Music did their Now.
Big Shiny Tunes.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember buying those on CD back
That's
in
right.
the day.
That's right.
Yeah. But now with Spotify and sort of the digital streaming services, I mean, those days are sort of gone, but there's a sort of a new take on the compilation process. Because now you have artists and, both known and not known doing their own playlists.
Absolutely.
That people follow.
Yep.
Do you follow any of the playlists? Are you into Spotify, or are you old school sort of Luddite? I got to have it on the vinyl or 8-track cassette.
Yeah. Reel to reel.
It's reel to reel. Actually, we have they're in storage, but the old Ampex 2-inch tape. And
nice.
Yeah, so I'll have to bring that out for a show to show the kids what we used to record on back in the day. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So, are you into Spotify, or you
Not
don't
really.
use it? No.
No, I'm too old, I think.
Okay, too old.
The whole Spotify thing, you know, follow me on Instagram kind of
Right,
thing.
right,
That's you know, how many of these things do you have to join? Really, come on.
It's it really is difficult because you kind of have to do everything, and as social media platforms change, now there's TikTok. Everything is about TikTok. I don't even know what TikTok is. Okay, I have an idea what it is. Isn't that kind of the new Vine? You know, a few years back there was a thing called Vine.
Sure.
Where it was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 second sort of clips.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't know what happened to them. I think they
got bought out, probably.
Bought out, and now everything's about TikTok.
Yeah, I imagine it's not all that different from like MySpace.
Right.
When MySpace was a new thing and everybody was like, jumping on the bandwagon.
And I think that's how I discovered your music, was through MySpace.
Was it?
Yeah. This was obviously a long time ago. When was MySpace big?
2005, 2006.
Okay, right.
Around just before Facebook
right.
got...
Because Facebook was around 20... I joined in 2007, I think. And then the rest is history, of course. We've all been stuck on there for the last, God knows how long, 15 years or 20 years.
It's been 15 years, yeah.
And yourself, you've been a musician, it says here, for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And what kind of made you choose that career path over, say, poetry or anything else you may have been interested in?
Well, it's one of these things where the job chose me. And my parents were both musicians, and so in a way I kind of, without even realizing it, have sort of followed in their footsteps.
Oh, okay.
And
what did your parents play?
My mom was a child prodigy for violin and piano.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my dad was a jazz playing trumpet player from a country boy from out in Manitoba.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And they met at the Berkeley School in Boston.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very
late
nice.
50s or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were kind of destined to follow this
in a
path.
way, yeah.
Did they ever pressure you, like,
No.
when you were a kid, like, okay, now you learn your piano and now your music theory?
No.
And no.
They whether it was choosing music or even choosing religion or anything like that, they just let us make our own choices,
right.
and which is probably, I think, the way to go. I don't know. I don't have kids, but
yes, we have 2 kids.
Oh,
we let them make their own choices. Sometimes those results are. I'm just looking at my wife and producer over there. She's looking away, smiling. Okay. But you're right. They have to kind of follow their own path and make decisions for themselves. They can't be living, other people's lives, or I guess the parents
Indeed.
can't be living vicariously through their kids either, right?
Well, in a way you can. I mean,
sure.
But in a fun way, I would imagine.
No. Sure, I guess so. Right.
Yeah, I never. The thought never really occurred to me. I'd always considered myself perfectly happy to not have kids.
Right.
And so it's and wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily a conscious decision. It was just something that happened. And
right.
and in a way, I feel kind of destined not to.
Right.
But I'm open to the possibility if it happens.
Hey, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen at any time.
Exactly.
I mean, providing you have a partner, of course. You just can't give birth asexually. Yet, that we know of course.
Well, anybody can be a father, but not
true.
everybody can be a dad.
Oh, that is true. That's very wise. So, I guess getting back to music, you have a new record coming out as well in the near future, with a show Friday, August 20th at Supermarket. Maybe tell us about the new record and the show that's coming up.
Okay. So when COVID hit, a lot of musicians and artists were, sort of stuck at home and not sure what to do. So I started writing songs, and a friend of mine who became the engineer for the album, Andrew McNulty, he's got a home studio, and we'd always been talking about getting together and jamming sometime. And he said, "Hey man, I've got a bunch of gear. You want to come over and record a song?" I'm like, "Sure." Next thing you know, we start making an album.
Oh, great!
It just kind of happened organically.
Okay.
And I said, well, I just happen to have these new songs, and why don't we just go with that? And we've been at it pretty much since October.
Okay.
I released or rather, he released a video that he'd made of the first song we recorded called "Heaven's Disowned," and it's I don't know, I've always liked it. It's
okay.
it's again, brand new song kind of thing. It's a year old now, but
okay.
but I like the message in it because it has a certain weightiness to it that I hadn't really noticed before in my songwriting.
I see. Okay.
And so from that, the theme of the rest of the album kind of follows suit.
I see.
Yeah.
So there's a theme behind the record. Okay.
And with the title record is Farewell,
Okay.
but not in a goodbye way, like
I see, okay.
just to maintain
Right.
and be well.
And be well. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is recorded with other musicians. Is it a band sort of album, or is it?
It's kind of a compilation
or?
of me and Andrew and so I got some friends of mine to play on individual tracks.
Excellent.
And most of them I know. A couple of them I don't know that well.
Okay.
They just happen to be available,
Okay.
and they said sure. And so it's been a nice little what's the word for it? Collaboration, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
in terms of through the lens of my songwriting.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And it'll be released. Is it going to be physical copies, or will it be streamed, or what's?
I'm thinking just digital.
Just digital.
Yeah, because I don't have the money to put together
Right.
vinyl albums or print
vinyl
up
is
a
very
bunch of
expensive.
CDs.
Yeah, for sure. And especially now with no real, discernible future of live shows.
Right.
Because that's the best place to sell physical product.
totally.
I would sell more physical product at a live show versus
Absolutely.
Via website or having it in a store.
Yeah.
But now the future seems uncertain with the potential fourth wave coming. So
And the end is always near.
that's true. And I see even some musicians now refusing to take bookings. Kind of see the potential challenges coming with the fourth wave, so they're not even
Right.
taking bookings because, well, I guess why book and then have it canceled?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, have you had many shows like canceled? Like, did you have a big tour?
I've had a couple.
Okay.
I didn't have a tour planned,
Okay.
but I would love to tour. I miss traveling so much.
Right.
It's in my blood.
Right, because you've kind of been all over. You've been through Canada, Europe, throughout the Caribbean as well.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite places to go?
My favorite city in Europe is Paris.
Absolutely, yes. We love Paris,
Yeah.
actually. We were there in 2019, and then we were planning to go back in 2020, but then, of course, the pandemic.
Indeed.
I love Paris. So what do you love about Paris?
Well, because my Facebook name is Jean-Baptiste de Cordier.
That's right.
So there's the French connection there, so to
Okay,
speak.
right, yeah.
Without the heroin. And and I was born and raised in Montreal, so there's that sort of French influence.
Right.
And my like on my birth certificate, it's actually Mark, like yours.
Okay.
With a C. But
Right.
since I've been in Toronto, I've been calling myself Marcus, and that seems to.
Because Mark with a C, that's the from what a French person told me, that's the Christian way of spelling it, or the.
I always thought the Christian way of spelling was with a K.
Okay, maybe something. Maybe then what's the opposite way? What's the opposite of Christian? It has something to do with the someone
Satanic.
explained it to me, and then I was kind of tuned out because at the time I was smoking a joint. But anyway, I wasn't really listening, but I was sort of listening.
Right.
It has something to do with that. I don't know. We'll research it and we'll post a link maybe at the end of the show.
Yeah,
So
why not?
Back to Paris.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's for one thing, it's so old, and there's so much history there, and all these characters from history that have lived there and died there and loved there,
Right.
and so on and so forth. I just love Paris.
Yeah,
It's like New York,
Yeah.
or St. Petersburg, or L.A. It's alive. There's this life to it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, the
And
architecture is amazing.
The architecture is amazing.
The
yeah.
food.
The
I've
food.
never had one bad meal in Paris.
Yeah.
Like even just going to the bakery to get like a croissant or
Sure.
we had ham sandwiches. Like not ham and cheese. It was just ham and butter.
Yeah.
And it was the most amazing thing I ever ate.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Just this mix of these quality ingredients put together.
Yeah, and
as
when you go
opposed
to like the pub or something, you order like a little meal. It comes with your like cheese and stuff, and there's like a huge tub of butter they usually give you.
Yeah.
In case there's not enough to put
Just
on your
in
bread.
case.
That's right. Yeah, that's great. I love Paris. And so you've also traveled throughout Europe, other countries. Anything else that's equally amazing? Or
St. Petersburg, Russia,
okay,
is an amazing city. Amazing city. I was working on a cruise ship a few years ago, and we did a couple of overnights there. Okay. And so I went out and did my thing, and and my big thing when I'm in a new city is I like to, well, hence my last name, I like to walk around, right, and sort of, and after like a couple to a few hours, I'll get a basic sense of where I am, and that sort of thing, right. And it's just beautiful, a beautiful city. You know, it's architecturally as well as because there's not too many high rises or anything like that. Right. And this old school Russian kind of you know, they don't take any BS. Yeah, okay.
Don't worry, you can swear on the show. Don't worry, we're on the internet. That's great. Because we were in Finland a couple of years ago too, and it's everything seems very well organized there. Very well. Highly educated population. Yeah. Even just when they give you an explanation for something, like, it doesn't leave you with any more questions because they've answered everything. They've answered everything. Oh, it's beautiful.
Was that Helsinki you were in?
We were in Tampere, which is about 2 hours north of Helsinki. Beautiful. We were in Helsinki, of course, just at the airport waiting for the next day. Right. But we didn't get a chance to go into town because it was like snowing in October, which is normal there, I suppose, but beautiful.
I'd been to Helsinki, and I gotta say I was kind of unimpressed. Okay. But I only had like a handful of hours to really explore it. True, but for the most part, it just seems like an ordinary kind of place. Yeah, yeah. And that's what some of the locals told us. Like where we were in Tampere, there's a more, I guess, history. It's a little bit older city. There's some older like structures and churches and stuff we went to. It was pretty interesting. And then they have some modern things, like they have a modern convention center, like the high-speed train that goes between Helsinki and Tampere. It's, and of course the reindeer. I ate like reindeer pretty much every day. Nice. So what did you eat in Paris? Like, what were some of your favorite meals there? What wasn't? I had probably the most amazing duck confit the first time I was in Paris, and this was in November of 2001, and. There was this New Zealand girl named Carol that I met at the hostel, and she worked for a wine merchant, so she knew how to pick out all the good wines. Oh, okay. So we would like go out and find a random place to sit down and eat, and she'd look at the wine list and say, hey, "We should get this one." Okay. And we must have drank, oh God, definitely well worth my weight in wine. Well, the wine there is excellent. We got hooked on Bordeaux's over there. They're excellent, and all the food's great. And of course, you must have went to the museums and the art galleries and such. I was so lucky because I was at that time I was just sort of backpacking around Europe, and so I started off I flew to Paris and then went to Madrid. Right. And from Madrid, I went up to Paris, and then from Paris to Rome, and from Rome to Copenhagen. Okay. And it's a little zigzag kind of thing. Right, right. But when I was in Paris, I happened to land on like a couple of days before it was the free day at the Louvre. Mm. Oh, okay, right. And it was just by chance that I happened to be a couple of days before it, and I'm like, well, I guess I better go. Right. And so I figured, okay, well, it's probably going to be a long lineup, so why don't I get up early? And so I think I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, and got ready to go down there for about 5 or so, and there was already a lineup down the street at 5 a.m. Wow. But I got in. You got in, great. By about 8 o'clock. Yeah, yeah. And it was amazing. It's amazing seeing these artworks in person, too. Yeah, totally. Admittedly, I wasn't that impressed with the Mona Lisa. No, it's great, but I was kind of, I don't know, I expected more, but I really love the Van Gogh stuff and some of the other painters. I can't remember the names. Chagall, and I guess Monet. They're really interesting stuff. So with your travels in Canada, Europe and the Caribbean. Where were you in the Caribbean about? All over. Like Aruba and St. Martin, St. Vincent and Calicos. And that's more through, I guess, the cruise ship sort of shows? Okay, great. Yeah. And what's that like? Because I've heard both. I've heard two stories. Like,
Actually, I've heard a third story that starts off good and then it eventually goes bad. Oh. Only because they were on there like 18 months or something. I think they just had their fill of being stuck in a little tiny quarters.
Yeah.
But maybe give us the lowdown on what's it like to plan a cruise ship.
I was lucky in that I was joining an already established band that had experience.
You can give a plug. Which was the band?
Adam's Rib.
Adam's Rib. Yes, we are quite familiar. Yes. Yeah.
As well as Horizon.
Okay, right.
They'd been doing cruise ships for 15, 16 years or something like that, and so they already had established relationships with the management.
Right.
So they knew how to ask for certain things and how to get as much leg room as we could in terms of being free to go about the ship, and we could even go up on the bridge.
Right, because aren't you considered crew or officers or something? Like,
we would be considered guest entertainers.
Oh, guest entertainers. Okay.
Yeah, because the first few contracts that I did were relatively short term. Okay. This last one I did back in 2016, that was for 6 months.
Okay.
But that was with Horizon, and they were, a well-established band. Right. We could go anywhere on the ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And I felt kind of sorry for a lot of some of the newer crew members who just weren't as, established, I guess you could say.
Right.
Because they had to go, live in the bowels of the ship and barely come up for, they'd be lucky just to get off the ship,
So what's like a typical day? Like how I guess often do you perform? How long do you perform?
Usually perform at night.
Okay.
So like 10 to 2 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But occasionally they'd have us on the pool deck and we'd play on the pool deck. And
I see. Okay.
Just usually during sail away.
Oh, okay.
From whatever city. For example, one of the best sailaways was out of Barbados, and just the way the shipping lane is set up, particularly during a sundown, it would be like the most amazing panoramic vista that you can imagine. And we're on this pool deck, and I'm just looking around, looking at all these clouds and the sunlight shining through them, and it's going redder and redder and oranger and oranger, and until it's swallowed up by the sea.
Yeah.
And really, really quite what's the word for it? Inspirational.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And do you find yourself writing songs on these tours, or you're just too taken in by the gig itself, and of course free time on the ship?
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
assume you get to do some of the activities on the ship. Okay, great.
Yeah. No, I found that there wasn't. I'd go over stuff, but nothing would really come to me, or at least this was my experience. I'm sure other people have other experiences. Right. But for the most part, I was just mostly focused on enjoying and soaking it all up, in terms of the experience of working on a cruise ship.
Now, were there any negative things to working on a cruise ship?
That's the usual bullshit with management and trying to implement rules that are really quite unreasonable and that sort of thing. I found most of it was just about being in power and exercising that power because they could, and rather than anything practical.
Okay.
So, like for example, this one guy, my band leader from the last cruise ship, he was talking about how during a fire drill, he was assigned this station in one of the bars, and one guy came up to him and was like, "Hey, where's your life jacket?" And he's like, "Well, I'm in this bar, man. I don't need to be outside for I can grab one on the way out."
Sure, right.
And he's like, "You're supposed to have your life jacket on," and then he notices that he's not wearing one. He's like, "Well, where's yours?" Right? Yeah. It was just stupidness, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Unnecessary. But I can understand how order would be required to be maintained when you think of Mutiny on the Bounty and Captain Bligh being this hard ass kind of guy.
Yeah,
that kind of thing has to be maintained, otherwise you could die. Right?
No, of course. And how many people are on these ships at any given time?
Well, the newer ships, the really big ones, they could have up to 15,000, 16,000 people.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people on a boat.
It's a floating city, essentially.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The ones that we were on were anywhere between 3,000 and 7,000.
Okay.
Roughly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Huh. I never really got into that whole cruise ship thing. Like whenever I was
it's not for everybody.
I just never.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to. You need to have a bit of a thick skin. And,
I see.
And also, it's important to hit the gym.
Okay.
Because you really have to put out a lot of energy, over the course of a day.
Right, for sure. And what's the food situation like? I'm sure it's all good.
It's good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, I never had a problem with it, but with getting free food.
Okay, great.
What's the issue?
No, absolutely. And drinks are covered, or that's something you got to pay out of your own?
No, you have to pay for the drinks. Okay. Yeah,
of course.
That's where they make a majority.
Booze is
of
usually
money.
never free.
Yeah.
On these things.
Right. Anywhere for that matter.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's great. So you would recommend it to musicians or someone that wanted to get on a
as an experience, a life experience. I think it's important to travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, why would you want to stay in the same town that you were born and grew up in for the rest of your life?
There's so many people that don't travel kind of outside their own little nest.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake because you have to, I think, get different perspectives.
Absolutely.
And talk to different types of people around the world. And you realize that everyone's kind of the same. And there's always some sort of common ground that people can build upon, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But there, some people, it's a benefit to them if they have people fighting each other.
Yes,
right?
And we see that more than ever today with social media and just the mainstream media. Everything is very polarized because that's more clicks and more people, subscribing to your news channel or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Exactly.
I'm always trying to say we should practice civil discourse and listen to various points of view, right? As long as, of course, they're within reason. And then weird points of view, I think they're easily ridiculed and kind of if I came out and said right now, aliens are under this table secretly, I don't know.
Well, they could be.
They could be. You're right. You're right. But extraordinary claims require
extraordinary evidence.
Right,
yeah, for sure. Although for me, statistically, I think it's highly improbable that they don't exist.
Yes. No. Exactly. Well, like when you do the DMT, you're talking to them for sure,
right?
Or again, it could just be a figment of your imagination, which I acknowledge as well. It could be anything.
It could be anything.
It really could, or it could be both.
It wouldn't surprise me if they've already been here and are just observing us and waiting for us to reach that point where now we can make contact.
That's right.
Kind of thing.
So if there's aliens watching this now, we'd love to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, come on by.
You know how to get in touch with me.
We'll make
next time I do psychedelics.
We'll make some cookies.
That's right. Yeah.
But when you think about it, though, right? I mean, it's like the known universe is like 18 billion light years ago, or 15 billion light years across, with trillions of planets and galaxies and star systems and that kind of thing. Right. Statistically, they probably exist.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think there was a stat: there's more stars in the Milky Way than there are grains of sand on our planet, for example. Right.
Yeah.
So many of those within habitable regions.
The Goldilocks zone.
And now we have the Pentagon and other government officials saying these things, they call them UAPs now. I don't know, just unidentified aerial phenomena. Just what's wrong with UFO? Unidentified flying object. It's all semantics now. Eh?
Well, remember when they used to call it shell shock, and then it became post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah,
it's basically the same thing.
Improving on the terminology.
Yeah.
But it's funny how that's kind of back page news. Is it because of COVID, or is it because people are so caught up in their own sort of lives that they don't care about these other possibilities?
I think it's a combination.
Beings, right?
It's like what are your interests? Right. Do you want to know more about the universe?
That's right.
Do you want to know more about your family history, and maybe you'll focus on that for a little while. Maybe you'll get bored with that. Maybe you'll want to switch to something else. Right. And that's the beauty about having a whole world of possibilities at your fingertips.
Right. And I think for some people, it doesn't affect their lives. It's like, sure, if E.T. comes down and visits me, I still got to go to work next day. Like, you know what I mean? So there's people are, I think, focused on survival right now. even now more than ever, because the gap between rich and poor is kind of getting wider as well. And I especially see a lot of artists leaving Toronto because they can no longer afford to live here. Like even famous artists, I think Ron Sexsmith left years ago, and a bunch of other people now live in Hamilton. Have you ever thought of getting out of the big city and getting a little cabin in the woods, or moving somewhere? Or?
Well, not with the way musicians are paid. Not at the rate they're paid these days. Hell, not even at the rate they were paid 20 years ago.
Right.
So probably means I'd have to take on some kind of alternative employment.
Oh, I see. Right.
To help supplement the demand of having to buy and maintain some kind of home,
right,
quote unquote home, right?
Yeah. Well, especially here in Toronto, everything's so expensive now. I'm not even sure who can afford to live here anymore.
Well, it's like that for a reason, of course,
yes.
Right? They don't want how often do you see homeless people talking on a cell phone?
No,
right?
You're right.
I don't see any of those.
No, I don't. No, not at all. No, exactly right.
So, but at the same time, you have people who are indifferent, to wanting to have a mortgage and all these other things that the industrial military complex benefits from,
right,
and that sort of thing. Because really, it shouldn't have to be this way, right? Remember when you were a kid and some guidance counselor was trying to figure out what it is that and you didn't know because you were a kid.
That's right. No, right? Exactly.
You didn't have to take care of.
You went by, what your guidance counselor told you thought you should do.
Yeah, or you didn't, and you just kept on doing your own thing.
That's right.
But I guess the key is just to keep doing it.
It is. Did you ever take an aptitude test in high school? I know it
sounds familiar, but I don't think so.
We did when we went in high school because we were doing like some sort of
career week. Yeah, right.
And I think that's kind of where guidance counselors kind of said, okay, well, you're probably going to go to university. Here's what you should do. Or you're not smart enough to do that. Maybe you should try a community college. Or they try to get you into...
Or stripping.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, have you ever thought of selling drugs?
You'd make an excellent drug dealer.
But I remember taking an aptitude test. I think I was around 14. And it's the professions that came out at the end of the process, it was like a tie.
Yeah.
It said I was either going to be a motion picture actor or I'd work in marketing.
Huh, look at you.
And I'm kind of somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
So, yeah. Because we're trying to get our kids to take an aptitude test to figure out what they want to do.
The problem is if you take an aptitude test when you're a kid compared to when you take an aptitude test when you're an adult,
right?
The
experience is different. You have different, right?
Different concerns.
But there might be core values or core things that you always have been interested in.
Sure.
Like with music, has that always been interest even before you knew how to play a guitar?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. I had this really cool turntable from the 70s that was shaped like a UFO.
Oh wow!
And it had these built-in speakers. I think it was Japanese. I don't know.
Okay.
But I found it in the garbage, and I plugged it in, and it worked. I was like, sweet. And so I was listening to Pink Floyd and Genesis and The Doors and Prince and so on and so forth. In my room in the basement and with the lights off. Blocking out all the light so I could be in complete total darkness and just catch every nuance of Us and Them by Floyd or something like that, right? Or Echoes, actually. Echoes is my favorite.
Okay.
But just to and also the song lyrics helped with my own poetry at the time.
Okay.
The big poet for me was, of course, Jim Morrison.
Right.
Was a big influence on my poetry. But after that, I started getting into other stuff. Actually, a close second would be the Peter Gabriel era Genesis.
Oh yeah, right.
That's my favorite part of Genesis. Right. Don't get me wrong, the Phil Collins era is pretty good.
Nothing against Phil.
Yeah, nothing. But for me, as an artiste, I really dig the Peter Gabriel stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, do you think that's something the new generation of musical listeners are kind of missing out on? Because when we grew up, we listened to albums.
Yeah.
In a lot of albums, there was a concept or there was a purpose in song 1 through 10 or 11 or however many songs. Whereas now I see a lot of releases, it's like more of a collection of songs or singles. Not everyone, of course, but... and then kids these days, are they blacking out their rooms like we did and listening?
Some of them, I'm sure.
Some of them, okay.
Yeah.
Or are they just throwing it on their little earbuds as they
that's
go
just
to work? Or are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So,
the what I've found from my limited observations is that everything's a lot faster now.
right.
And the instant gratification factor is that much faster than what it was when we were kids.
Right.
So they have, like the internet, they have all this access to pretty much anything they want, right? And then it becomes confusing as to what to stick to.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Choose something and you listen to that for 30 seconds. Oh, I'm bored. I want to listen to something else.
Yeah.
Right. So the focus factor is really scrambled. And and I think it's a type of change that's happening. So say, for example, in another 40 or 50 years, that will develop into something that will be what we'll consider the whole thing of listening to albums in the dark kind of thing, right? It'll be at another level, I think.
Yeah, because I've been reading like various articles and books from futurists, and they say thousands of years from now, our language will become so efficient that it'll be shorter.
Yep.
Like we'll just say things like "Burp, burp, burp," and we'll have a whole conversation, right?
Yeah.
Do we see potentially music even going that way? Because that would be terrible. Like you listen to, a double album and it's over. Versus how when we listen to albums, there was a slow burn. Sometimes the payoff wouldn't be until song 8 or whatever, right? So are we going to lose out on that, do you think, in the future when it comes to music?
Hard to say, because we're still evolving as a species. I had read recently that they came across a bone flute made from the femur of a cave bear.
Oh, right.
That's about 46,000 years ago, 48,000 years ago. And they determined that it was probably made by Neanderthals. So if they're able to make flutes 50,000 years ago,
that's right.
Chances are music will probably stay the same for the next little while.
Right. Because it's kind of hard to improve on the instrumentation that we have, given our physiology and how our ears work and how sounds work. Unless we create some sort of new instrument that we haven't thought of yet. Do you foresee anything like that, or do you have any ideas for like a futuristic instrument? That's not necessarily a synth.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I remember this episode of Buck Rogers, the Gilles Girard one. Where they're talking about this musical act that were. I mean, they were using versions of guitars, but they weren't quite guitars. I think one of them was playing a Gittler guitar, if you're familiar with those. No, there's so in the video of Synchronicity 2 by the Police, Andy Summers is playing a Gittler guitar. And it's basically just wires and tubes, and it's metallic, kind of metallic looking. It's really cool. Gittler guitars.
And it's spelled G-I... Like it says.
2 T's L-E-R.
Because when I typed in Gittler, picture of Hitler came. You mean Hitler? No. Oh wow, this looks cool. I'll post a picture when we do the edit. But this looks wicked.
Yeah, this is from the 80s.
It almost reminds me of a Chapman stick.
Yes.
Okay. Is it the same sort of idea, or is it?
I would imagine so, but I've never seen one with my own eyes.
That is cool.
Nor played one.
Yeah, I'll definitely post a graphic when we do the edit, because this is actually a really cool instrument. So what if aliens came to the planet and they brought something we haven't seen? Like, have you guys tried this out?
Like a wormhole generator?
Or something. Or something that makes sound. I don't know if you remember this. Remember in the early 90s, there was something called Q Sound. Some CDs, Sting CD at the time came out with it.
Ten Summoner's Tales?
Was that? I forget that. Maybe it was. It was like, I want to say 91. And Madonna, Immaculate Conception. This was also in Q Sound. So Q Sound was basically just using 2 speakers, but to create three-dimensional sound. So it used different types of phase cancellation, and you had to sit perfectly in the monitoring position, but it would be like surround sound. You'd hear surround behind you. And
Did it work? It worked?
Yeah. Because at the time I was attending music industry arts at Fanshawe College, so we had perfect listening environments, right? Like mix rooms. So I'd go listen in there, and sure enough, it sounded like there was something behind me, and it sounded like there was stuff above me. And one of the cuts, I think the song started off with like a thunderstorm,
right?
And I swear to God, it was right above me.
Nice.
But what I noticed after listening to the record for like 10, 15 minutes, my ears got really tired.
Yeah.
I would assume it's processing all the different phase cancellation, whatever the technology is. But I haven't seen that technology been used since. So maybe there's something in the future where we'll kind of use something like that.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I mean, I keep leaning towards the whole Borg implants kind of thing.
Right.
Although Arthur Clarke, who wrote 2001, he in his novel, the final sequel of 2001 called 3001, Frank Poole comes back from the edge of the universe after dying by Hal, and
right.
And the technology is such that they're able to revive him. Okay. And so he's experiencing this new world, so to speak, and 1,000 years out, you can imagine some of the changes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so they gave him a little chip in the cheek of his hand, and that would basically be his identity card, Okay. So in the borderline Nazi guys are like, your papers, you just give a little beep,
just go that record,
right? That sort of thing. So I'm thinking that marriage of technology is probably going to reach some zenith at some point in the next, 300-400 years. Right. And next thing you know, just be plugging stuff in like the Matrix. And
that's right. Like with Neuralink and stuff, like you won't even need speakers or earbuds. The music could be just, broadcast to your brain. That's right. Okay, right. Yeah. But also that could be used by advertisers and government to get in there, to kind of, or the CIA to make you do things.
If the CIA will even exist at that point.
That's true. That's exactly. Or maybe they'll be doing music. It'll be a record company by then. It's weird how things evolve over time.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's exciting to kind of see what might happen for the future. For
sure. I would love to see it myself.
And hopefully these things kind of build up sort of the music community, because sometimes when there's new technology, we kind of destroy some fabric of the quality or integrity of music. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Spotify. I listen to Spotify, don't get me wrong. If I'm, doing something, I'll just have it on in the background. But if I'm going to listen to a record, I'll try to get the WAV file or the CD or the vinyl. But
buy directly from the artist?
Yeah, I try to do directly from the artist, try to buy their merch whenever I can and so forth. But sorry, getting back to Spotify. So there is definitely a loss in the quality of that stream. To me, it sounds over compressed. You know what I mean? Like there's too much compression and no dynamic range. And I kind of find that there's a lack of dynamic range in music coming out today. Have you noticed that as well?
There's always in the big hit song, there's a breakdown.
Right.
Where it's just like the drums or
that's like a lot of my songs. That's a Najuan stuff.
Well, you look at somebody like Taylor Swift or a lot of these these pop machinations. Like when you think of J-pop or K-pop, right? These are kids who didn't grow up together,
right?
Or were in the trenches.
That's right.
At some dirt bag of a bar,
right?
Paying their dues.
Right. It wasn't like the Beatles in Hamburg playing 8 hours a night every night for weeks, months on end.
Living on bennies and vitamin C.
Exactly. That's right.
Right. You'd be lucky to get a steak.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That'd be like
I know.
A boon.
That's right.
So this sort of crafted pop music and it's always been there. It's just now it become more of a prevalent elephant in the room,
right?
And which reminds me of a joke.
Please, you haven't told us enough jokes.
A slight
Ambrose
detour.
Told us you would tell us 100.
A slight detour from the. I gave a friend of mine for his birthday an elephant in the room. He said, thanks. I said, don't mention it. Right?
That's good. Have you thought of doing comedy as a side?
I've been approached actually a number
really?
of times,
Okay.
and wholly encouraged by those who think it would be a good thing for me. And I used to listen to a lot of comedy when I was a teenager as well.
Right.
Like a lot of Cheech and Chong and Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah.
So on and so forth.
Good old Cheech and Chong.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Funny stuff.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
And the best part about it was that they were talking about being high.
That's right. We'll occasionally watch one of their films.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And they're all directed by Tommy.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I never noticed. Wow, that's great. Yeah, because he's Canadian.
He's Canadian. Yeah,
great.
from Calgary.
Ah, Calgary. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Who knew?
Right. Just like Ted Cruz is from
That's
Calgary.
right. Is he really?
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me.
I know.
What are you gonna do? But we're going off on a different detour here. We're just gonna pull it back here for a moment regarding the pop music of today.
Right.
And it tends to be this really it's geared towards teenagers. 12 to 16-year-old girls in particular.
Okay.
But for somebody who's already been in the through the meat grinder of life,
Right.
Somebody in their 30s or 40s, there's music out there for them as well, but it's
Right.
not as pushed as hard.
No.
Because you're smart enough to realize when
Right.
you're getting scammed half the time,
Right.
right? The kids don't know these,
Right.
They think everybody tells the truth.
No,
right?
I know. But you think this is more a product of like major labels? Because there's a lot of like indies
course.
out there, and they're kind of putting out the music they want to put out rather than succumbing to the pressures of with the market. Or
I'm not so sure about that. I when I hear a new artist that sounds like somebody who's ultra pop
Right.
on the radio,
Yeah.
that to me doesn't sound like somebody who's being true to themselves as an
No,
artist.
right.
It just sounds like they just want to make money or be famous.
That's right.
Regardless of what the price
Sure.
of fame is.
Right.
They just want to be famous.
And often they sound like a facsimile of whatever
Exactly.
the artist is. That was
Exactly.
their influence that they were
Yeah.
trying to emulate. Right.
Discount Lady Gaga or
Right.
whatever. Right?
Yeah. Hey, that'd be a good band name. Discount Lady Gaga. Okay, we're gonna copyright that later.
That's right.
So then, what sort of advice would you have? Say I'm a teen learning how to play guitar, and I want to get into the music business, or I want to become a musician. What would you tell me?
Practice.
Practice. Okay.
Yeah, that's first and foremost the highest point of because when you're first starting out, you're
Right.
I don't know like how you started off, but when I started off, I was I had this crappy old acoustic.
Yeah.
And
I still have the. You
still have?
acoustic. It's in the hallway.
Oh, nice.
The red guitar. I think I posted online a couple of times, but yeah.
Boom.
But yeah, it was a crappy no-name
Yeah.
acoustic. Yeah.
With bad action.
Oh yeah.
And
that made you
worn
a
downstream,
stronger.
and that
like,
made you a
worked
stronger
your
player.
fingers.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be so concerned about getting a brand new Gibson or a brand new Taylor or something like that. Learn on something crappy so that you can appreciate the good stuff when it does come.
That is true. Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
Great. And then any advice for like compositions, or you leave that up to the artist?
Oh, it's so
Other
subjective.
than maybe try to tell them to be original, I guess.
Yeah, be original,
right.
be honest. Try not to, don't necessarily consciously, like say for example, somebody who's a huge fan of Kate Bush, right? And wants to write like Kate Bush and sound like Kate Bush.
Right.
And eventually you just end up sounding like Kate Bush
Right.
as opposed to sounding like yourselves.
Right.
So yes, your heroes are there to sort of help with that
Right.
sort of mentality, but don't be like them.
Don't be like that.
Be like you.
That's right. And I think that kind of sets certain artists and bands apart from the ones that are trying to sound exactly like their favorite artists.
Exactly.
And I find those artists kind of go farther in their careers, and they build up more fans and audiences and so forth. Right.
Especially if the more original sounding
The more original
they
right,
are.
right.
Then, for example, I did this gig with Russell Leon.
Oh, Russell, yeah.
A number of years ago.
Love his music.
Yeah.
I got to get him on the show too. So
You should.
Right, yeah.
I've been a member of his band for for over 15 years.
Yeah, because I've seen you guys play before. I think at Graffitis and somewhere. Okay, right.
So on and so forth.
Yeah.
If he needs somebody, he'll give me a call.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that sort of thing. Anyway, he and I did this duo gig at at not the old Jeff Healy's, but the new Jeff Healy's
on
Peter Street,
right.
which is of course now long gone.
Right.
But the band that went on after us, and I don't know how to emphasize that they sounded exactly like Bon Jovi.
Oh.
Like they dressed the same. That same
really?
kind of guitar tone, processed 80s, the gated snare.
Yeah.
That's sort of like...
What was the name of the band, just out of curiosity?
Okay. Exactly, I don't remember. Because
Jovi Bon.
Yeah.
Or something. Bovi John.
Yeah. Like if Bon Jovi put out an album of songs that they'd never released, from the discarded ones that never made the album.
Yeah, right.
It would be these guys.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's what they should have done. Like just leaked it on the internet and say these are unreleased demos.
They probably could have made a couple of bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Before they got sued. But would have been a nice party for about 6 months.
Yeah, I know, exactly, for sure. So I guess getting back to your release, show is coming up August 20th.
Yes.
Supermarket, and that's with a full band and everything.
Yep, the quartet. Laura Ryan, who is also just released an album, is opening.
Great.
Doors open at 7. The show starts at 7:30.
7:30, okay.
And the Marcus Walker Quartet will be on at 9. Yeah.
Okay. And is there any pre-registration because of COVID? Because there's limited seating. Is there any information?
At the moment, no, because when it was booked, this fourth wave thing was just a rumor. By next week, I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Okay.
But best to get in touch with the venue.
Yeah, we'll double check on that, and I think if we're free, we'll definitely come check it out for sure.
Please do.
Need to get out of the house, and I always enjoy watching you and hearing you play live. Of course, I also remember from the old days, the open mic sort of days. You do some tunes, and they're always great.
Thanks.
And since we're coming to the end of the show, you'll do a song for us today.
Yes.
Did you want to set up the song you're going to play? Maybe tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. This is a song about a torrid affair I had with a much older woman. Okay. And it's called Teach Me.
Teach Me. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll flip over now to the live segment.
All right. This is called Teach Me. I needed less. Just couldn't keep my eyes from staring off to the left. With all contents laid bare, right there upon the chair, all the priests declare. Another day out of hot water, yet another way to keep sane. Well, I've got this itch that only you can scratch, and if you scratch, babe, yes, I will be a weevil. So it came as I predicted, like the thing that you're addicted to, the point of joy the ground has shifted. From the Pyrenees to the holy seas, to the distant sign in 60 degrees. Another day out of hot water, yet another way to keep sane. Well, there's more than a few things you can teach me, so that I could teach you. souls who are divine, are divine. We could sashay to the hills, plant a crop, gather friends, and acquire skills. Another day out of hot water, yet another way to keep sane. Well, there's more than a few things you can teach me, so that I could teach you. Yeah, there's more than a few things you can teach me, so that I could teach you. More than a few things I could teach you. More than a few things, yeah, that I could teach you.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for being on the show. And I encourage everyone to check out the show August 20th at Supermarket. And where can people catch you online should they want to see up news and updates?
There's my Facebook group, Marcus Walker - musician.
All right.
There's YouTube, Marcus Walker Music.
Okay.
And SoundCloud as well.
Fantastic. And we'll post those links later when we post the show. Thank you again for being on the show, and we'll see you on the 20th.
See you then. Ciao.